All right. Yeah, you can hear me, hopefully. Here we are, last session of the day. And yeah, so this picture, maybe you feel like this right now after a full day of being here. We felt like this this morning, actually. Martin missed his train. I had a flat tire. So luckily we were here at the last session, but it was not the best day. But we'll make something out of it. So today we want to talk to you about a couple of things. But first, this picture. So this is how we sometimes feel when we are developing. And it's not always how you want to feel, of course, but sometimes you just get that. We have it when we have to interact with a lot of logging tools and Git providers, and you just want to focus on your code, and instead you have all these other things that drag at your attention. So today, we're going to talk to you about how to boost your productivity by engineering your engineering tools. And what it actually means, engineering your engineering tools, we'll talk to you about that today. But in the end, you will be hopefully more productive and even better, more happy as a developer. So that's the goal. I'm Guus, this is Martin again. We are both working as developers, and we used to both work at Rabobank. I'm still there. Martin left to another project, but that's where we started this thing. So we're happy to share that with you. And there are some cool announcements at the end. But this is the program for today. So first, I'm going to describe to you what the problem is, what our solution to that problem is, and then Martin will talk to you about some technical things. He will show you some code, cool things, and how we actually were able to do this within the Rabobank, because there's a whole journey involved in that as well. And then we'll come back and wrap it up and then enjoy the rest of the night, probably. So here we go. Why are we here? What are we talking about? What is the problem? So, like I said at the beginning, there are a lot of tools we have to interact with on a daily basis. So think of, so your Azure DevOps or your GitHub or GitLab, all those kind of things, but also Splunk and SignalVex and Cloud Foundry, AWS. There are just a lot of them. I sometimes lose track of what's where, which has which, and those kind of things. And even more annoying is that you constantly have to switch between those, losing focus, and well, you actually want to code. Basically, that's why we're here, we're developers. So that's already there. And then last point is it can be very slow to use these kind of things. So as an example, I have a small video here showing you how to create a pull request in Azure DevOps from scratch. So first we see the IDE here. If you want to create a pull request, you first have to go with your bookmarks, open Azure DevOps. You come to some kind of landing page, click on your team. Then on the left side, there is your repositories. You can go to the pull request, but you're in a different repository. So first have to switch there. Then there's a button, new pull request. You can select your branch. And then finally, you are in the screen where you can create a pull request. So this is nothing new. Nothing new. What I mean is, like, this is something we do on a daily basis. Everybody knows this. It just takes a lot of time. It took like 30 seconds to explain this and to show the video. There is a lot of time that we lose when we are developing and we just want to focus on features. This is basically something everybody does every day, a lot of times. And this is only one of the examples where these things can be slow. We'll show more in a bit, but there's a lot of time to be saved there. And it can also be more fun to do it in that way. So what did we do? To counteract this, we looked at what did we already have lying around, what can we do to make these kind of things faster, and those kind of things you already know. So this was our first attempt at a solution. Basically, we have some bash scripts, we have some aliases, we have some Alfred workflows. If you don't know Alfred, I'll explain in a bit, but it's basically a way to run your scripts more faster if you are working on a Mac. And all of that. So it's nice. We had those kind of things already, and this is something you probably already know when you want to have something in your terminal and you want to do that again and again, just create an alias for it, or a script, or even both, or something like that. There are some downsides to it, though. When I joined the team, I got this in a Teams message saying, oh, hey, here, this is the thing. You just have to add it to your terminal. You have the aliases. It will work fine. First of all, when I copy and pasted it, I copied the whole Teams message and I pasted it, and it said like, oh, Stephen wrote to you, blah, 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 and then it was the thing, so that's already annoying. And it didn't even work on my machine because there are some environment variables that you also have to set, and it's 10 times the same thing, actually, with a couple of different things. So it's a lot of duplication. It's not nice code. It's hard to maintain, and you basically have it lying around on your computer, and when somebody new joins the team, you have to just share it to them, and well, all of that. So we thought of something new that's called RED. It stands for Rabobank Engineering Tools. And to give a quick demonstration of what it does, we'll create again the same pull request as we did in the previous video, but this time it's a bit faster. So don't blink because well, that's already it. You are at the screen where you get your pull request. It will show again. It's basically one command in your terminal. You go to the screen where you create your pull request, and already knew it is that specific branch in that project that I want to create the pull request for. Just one command, and you have it right there. So that's one thing we made, and it's in the tool that's called RED. So to give you a quick pitch of what RED is, it's the red thing there in the middle. Basically, this is the picture we made to go to our business at Rabobank to say, hey, this is something we want to make. And they accepted that, so we were able to make it. And what it does is, let's see, I want one of these things. Laser pointer, yeah. Okay, so this is RED. And it's able to interact with a lot of different systems, like your Azure DevOps, like Splunk, like all of those things. And it's all based on a terminal command line application. We have some nice features in there. So one we already saw, it's the context awareness. So it knows, oh, we are in this Git repository and in this directory and all of that. So it can use that in the implementation. And then we have also some auto suggestions and IntelliJ features. I'll demo that in a bit. But those are the kind of things that RED offers you on top of something just like an alias. And then on top of RED, you can build other interfaces like an IntelliJ plugin, which could be really simple, like a keyboard shortcut to just run a terminal command line, just one-liner, calling a RED command. And for the same thing, if you want, so the Alfred workflow, which I'll show in a bit, same thing. Underneath, it's just running commands in your terminal. So it's really easy to build new things on top of what we already have. So that's RED in a nutshell. And I want to show you a couple more things that we can do with it. So there's a small demo. Let's see if this works. Now you should be able to see this. Perfect. All right. So this is my terminal. Start off with, does not work. There we go, RED. All right, is this big enough, by the way? No complaints, so should be. RED, and if I press tab, you'll see what the things are that we currently have, which you can do. So there's configure, which is not that interesting, but there's also things with pull requests, things with pipelines, and there's Splunk. So for example, if I want to see what pull requests are currently open, you can go to pull PR, see what we can do. We can either create a new one or open something in the browser, that is. And then when I press tab again, it will go to Azure DevOps and get all the pull requests that are currently open. This is live, by the way, so we have a lot of dependency updates to do. I hope my team will do it today, but unfortunately it's still there, but that's fine. So these are all the pull requests that are currently open for all the projects that we have. But you can make it a bit easier if you already specify on which repository you want to look. So one of them is called User Profile Aggregator. if I type user pro and maybe if I press tab, it already knows, oh, you probably want either user profile or user profile aggregator. And you can make that even easier when you get PR open. You can do something like you do in IntelliJ, where you just press a couple of letters UPA for user profile aggregator. It already knows, like, oh, these are the ones that you are probably looking for. And if I then, again, look what pull requests are open, the list is a lot smaller. It's only those two. Whoa, that's the wrong button. Yeah. All right. So, and if you actually do that, if you do open a pull request, it goes to the browser and press enter. It goes to the browser to that specific pull request that's open, and it's already approved. So maybe I'll just merge it. Yeah. no, I'll leave that to my team. So that's the basic feature with opening pull requests in the browser. Same thing if you want to create a new one. You have to go to your repository. So Rabobank engineering tools, which is this specific thing we're talking about. I have a feature prepared already. It's called a new feature. So red PR create. This is the thing we saw in the video. So you go to the browser and then you can click create and it has everything already filled in. Or if you want it even shorter, you do the same thing. So red PR create, and then you add a flag no prompt. Then it will just do it in the background. And here it is. It is that this specific URL is now the pull request. And to see if it's actually there, I can go red PR open. And well, there's only one. So it already pre-filled it, but that's the one. So if I open now, there we go. So that's some basic things you can do on the terminal. And now I'll come back to the Alfred thing. So if you don't know, in Mac you have something that's called Spotlight, where you can search for things. There's an even more powerful way to do that, where you can basically, on anywhere you are, you can press a keyboard shortcut and you come in this thing. And then you can start like typing like maybe some Google prompts. But if you type red here, these are the integrations we built on top of the command line tool. So here, if I press enter, it will go to do red Splunk. Again, I can look for the list of projects I have. So maybe UPA again. There we go, user profile aggregator. Can pre-fill an index to look in, and I can already type a query. So maybe log level info, and then hopefully it will work immediately. It does. It's a bit slow though. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to build this. Like, we have to wait for the page to load, but then once it loaded, you can already see the whole query is already filled in. So this is the name of the application, the index, and the custom query. And then you don't have to wait for that to even show up before typing your query. So basically, these are the kind of things that we can do with Red. And now Martin will show you how we actually implemented this. So Martin, please.
Yeah, thank you.
Take it over.
Yeah, so I will first tell you something about how we built this project. Not only technically wise how we built this project, but also process wise how we convinced our company to give us sprint time for this. And so let's first look into the tools. We aren't going to make this very theoretical today, so it's the last talk, right? You don't want to want to get a lot of theory then. So we'll keep this light and we'll show in a demo how this all works together, a live coding demo. So the frameworks and tools that we are mainly using are Quarkus, GraalVM, PicoCLI, and at the left bottom you see Zeesh for Zeesh autocompletions. There you see Homebrew, and you have Kotlin at the right. So we chose these tools because most of them were familiar to us already. We were programming Kotlin already, and we noticed that Quarkus, PicoCLI, and GraalVM is a really nice combination of making CLI applications on the JVM. So I will explain a bit about two of those tools, a bit more about two of those tools, and that is Quarkus. Quarkus is an application framework, basically just like Spring Boot is, for example. It's quite comparable, or to Micronaut. When it started, it was in a time where most of the application frameworks back then were used to build like big monolithic applications, which didn't suit the cloud nativeness very well. And they wanted to fix this because they wanted to make Java perform well on cloud, basically on Kubernetes, but also Lambdas, for example. So one of the things that Quarkus is very good at is that it creates small artifacts and a fast boot time and a lower time to the first request. That's also very nice to have for a CLI application, of course. So what also is very good is that it's tailored for GraalVM. So and then specifically the native compilation of GraalVM, which is also something what we want, because if you have a native CLI, it's a lot faster than just a regular Java application where a VM has to be started up. And also it contains a lot of developer goodness. Like hot reloading your code while you're just programming, it will just reload in the background. You can configure it to continuously test your code. And also, just like Spring Boot is, for example, it's quite opinionated. So that means that it's very easy to get started with a Quarkus application. They have a lot of sane defaults, which you can override very easily if needed. So that was quite good. Then we have PicoCLI, and PicoCLI is a library for creating rich CLI applications on the JVM. You can do that in two ways, basically. You can use the annotations, or you can use a programmable API to, for example, register commands or flags, or whatever. It has basic auto-completion features built in. I say basic, but it's actually quite good. But in our case, it wasn't good enough. I'll get to that soon. But actually, this auto-completion is very usable for most of the CLI tools that you want to build, probably. And it also offers easy testing possibilities, so you can easily simulate a command line application being started up in your unit tests, for example, and you can just invoke a command and check what the standard out and the standard error is, for example, or the exit codes. Lastly, it's GraalVM compatible as well, and it also integrates well with Quarkus. So Quarkus has built some integrations, especially for PicoCLI, actually. But yeah, let's go into the coding demo then, because yeah, one thing was missing from Red, and that is the Stack Overflow feature, of course, because we also want to query Stack Overflow from the command line. So I'll get to my coding machine now. So let's see. And then there it is. Cool. Okay, so I'm at the project of Red, basically, the Rabobank engineering tools. And here at the left, you see that it's a multi-module Maven project. And it contains currently two modules. One is for building the Alfred features, and one is the CLI. So this is the main part of Red, of course. So if we go into that, then you can see that we have some packages, but also the red entry command. So here, this is the starting point of the application. And we let Quarkus know that this is the starting point of the application because we use the top command annotation. This is something that is from Quarkus. So this is one of the things that Quarkus, from the Quarkus PicoCLI integration, basically. And then we are using a command to register like the first command, and this is PicoCLI. Here we give it a name, so the name is going to be red, and it will have several subcommands. Well, some things you already saw at Guus's demo. So for example, a repository or pull request command. Well, and here are some options listed, but we'll not dive into that because we're going to integrate Stack Overflow, of course. So let's go ahead and let's try this out. Okay, so this doesn't exist yet. So now we have created a class called Stack Overflow, and we are going to put a command annotation on it. And we will give it the name Stack Overflow. And we can also give it a description. It's optional, but let's do it. Query Stack Overflow. And then we have to make this a runnable, because if this command is executed, some code has to run, of course. And we can do that easily by making it runnable and implementing the run method. Let's keep it like this. We already know that we need to interact with the browser, and Red has a utility method, utility class for this, which is called browser utils. This can open the browser in different OSs. And now let's first create some tests for this, because I can think of 2 tests that I want to create. And one of them is going to be like open the dashboard. And one of them is going to be query Stack Overflow for, like this. So I envision this feature to be like, if we run red Stack Overflow and then hit enter, then we just go to the dashboard. And if we add some words behind it, then we directly want to query that on Stack Overflow, basically. So we'll need to create a command line application. This is PicoCLI again. So we'll create a command line, and the command line needs a command. Well, we have created a Stack Overflow command already. So let's introduce that, and there we can mock the browser utils property field, I should say. Okay, so there we have the browser utils then. And now we can actually start implementing the method. But I actually want to show you the Quarkus developer mode first. So I'm going to open my my terminal. I will run maven Quarkus dev, and I will hit enter. So this is something that you will get for free when you just create a new Quarkus project. This is the developer mode, and here you can do several things. For example, the continuous testing, or the continuous reloading of your classes, because it's basically just creating a daemon. And you can also edit your command line arguments already here. So if you look at the logs, then you can see that it has already ran the CLI, but without any subcommands. So now it says like, hey, you should run more than just red. So you should run, for example, red Stack Overflow. But we'll get to that soon. You can already see here in the help text that Stack Overflow is now listed as a new subcommand with the description that we gave. But first, let's head back to the test. We can press R. You can see at the bottom what kind of things you can do. So if we press R, we resume testing. So I'm now pressing R. It will run all of the tests that we have. It's about, I think, 180 in the end or something. 170 almost. So all of the tests were run, all of the tests were green. Well, that is nice, of course. So let's implement our tests. Was it the right one? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so we are going to invoke a command, and this basically like this. You just say like, I'm going to invoke red Stack Overflow, and when we do that, we expect. So we verify that the browser utils is called, open URL is called on it with the URL to Stack Overflow. Like this. So we can copy that to this one. Oh, and that's actually quite nice. So if I, okay, now let's first implement this one. So here I can say like this is a query. So when we do that, then I expect it to go to search, q is, and then this plus is plus a plus query. Okay, this should be good. So when I now press Command S, then you can see in the bottom that it will rerun the tests. So I will do it right now. And it reran the test quite quickly in 200 milliseconds, and it just reran the tests that were changed, basically. So just the tests that that we just added, and it says that they have filled, which is logical because we haven't implemented the implementation yet, of course. So now we can start implementing this, and each time we change this code and we save it, it will rerun the tests again. So we can easily test that by just fixing one of them. And now I press Command S again. And you see already that one test is now failing, so that's quite an improvement. But we also want to make sure that we can query Stack Overflow, of course. So I'm going to add a new annotation, which is called parameters. And I will call this query parts, because each item in the list will be like a word. So something like this. And then we can say if query parts is empty, then we do this. And otherwise, we do a bit more. So we can say if our query is query parts.string to join, join to string, almost. This is a very cheap way of doing the URL encoding, but it should work. Okay, so when I press Command S now, we hope that it works. Yeah, it seems to be working, so it's good. But yeah, this is just unit test, right? So let me just show that it will actually work as well when I use the command line mode of the Quarkus dev environment. So I can now press E, and then I can change the command line arguments. So red is already there, so I can just add Stack Overflow here. And when I now press Enter, I expect it to go to the browser and open Stack Overflow. There we go. And when I do this again with a query like string to join in Kotlin, then it should directly search for this. It's maybe a bit small, but it says it at the top. So that's pretty cool. But still, this is not a command line application, right? So the thing that we need to do is we need to invoke GraalVM to create a command line application out of this. And we can use something that Quarkus provided for us out of the box, which is a Maven profile, and it's called native. We also invoke dev. That's a profile that we built ourselves, basically. Yeah, so let's enter it. What the dev profile will do is just add another flag to the GraalVM compiler to make it a bit faster. It's called the -OB flag, capital O, small b. It will just make the compilation a bit faster, especially for development mode, basically. So it will now also run all the tests, of course. Could have skipped them. So now you see that GraalVM is kicking in, and what GraalVM is doing basically is, yeah, I don't know all the I do not know all the ins and outs of Graal, but what it will do basically is just package the whole application, and then check which class files are not used, and it will strip them out. It will strip out everything that is not used, and it will analyze it, and eventually it will, yeah, do a lot of analysis and magic, and eventually it will create a native application that is running, yeah, real natively on your system, which should be very fast and a lot more memory efficient, for example. Really quick to start up and stuff, and that's really what you want with a CLI application. So just to make sure, this native profile that was really added by Quarkus already when we generated the project, and we mentioned like, hey, we would like to have GraalVM interaction. So that's really cool. So now it's done, and we can actually invoke the new application. So it's under CLI/target/red, and here we can also, we can just press enter here and get the same subtext of help text. I mean, and here we can go to Stack Overflow, and we can do the same, like this is a test query or something like that. So that's basically really cool. we also automatically generate the auto-completion for this and stuff, but that's a bit too much for this talk. So we would like to get back to the slides now, and we'll tell you a bit about the process. Like, how did we make sure that we could do this in sprint time at the Rabobank, because we also were we are responsible for maintaining about 12, 13 microservices, I believe, and doing a lot of different things as well. So of course we have a lot of real work to do, but still we got time for this. Oh yeah, first I wanted to tell you about the limitations of this setup, basically. So GraalVM, it cannot do cross-compiling to different OSs. So I cannot, on my MacBook, I cannot cross-compile red to, for example, a Windows machine, or vice versa, or not even for an Intel Mac, I cannot even create a native image. So in your CI/CD, you should really have different hosts, basically on different running on different machines to create all the necessary artifacts. That's a bit of a bummer. And like I told you before, the auto-completion of PicoCLI, it's not able to generate like dynamic candidates to choose from, like the words that you get when you tap, basically. And we really needed that because we wanted to see the most recent pull requests that are made, or like all of the current projects that are in this scope or whatever. So we really needed the dynamic auto-completion system, and that's something we built ourselves. And also, it was it's not really suited for a plugin architecture. Well, I mean, it is possible, of course. That's actually what the team now came up with recently, which is great. But it wasn't very easy to do so. There might be better tools out there for this, but still, we managed. So how did we actually make sure at the Rabobank that we could do this? Well, we considered the project as a startup. So we had the idea at first, like, hey, we want to fix our development setup, all of the scripts lying around and stuff. We want to consolidate that. And we also had a proper vision of how can we make it better in the future. So we first had the idea. Then we started experimenting with creating this tool. And eventually we also dogfooded the application, which means that we were going to use it ourselves. And because then you really know whether it works or not, and whether it's nice to use or not. So that's it's really necessary if you build something that you use it yourself, I think. Also, after that, we pitched it to the business, to our business lead. And we told her, like, hey, this is a tool that we really want to build, and we think that it can save this much time and this much frustration, because all the context switching between tools is just really annoying for us. And she was actually very enthusiastic, so that was cool. So then we started documenting, and we made the installation a lot easier using Homebrew, for example. And we asked some other users, other members from other teams, basically, if they could also try out the tool and what they thought of it, basically. And eventually we released it in the Rabobank back then. At an internal event, we released it, and then we got some traction from different teams, and people were using it more and more. So that is really cool. Because still today, like, I think when this was released, it was maybe 4 or 5 months ago, something like that, and maybe a bit more even. And still people are using it nowadays, and we're still working on it in our sprints. Or actually, the team is still working on it in their sprints, which is really cool. So if you want to get started on something like this, like, it doesn't have to be this big, right? You don't have to create a whole application or something, but you can very easily start sharing all of your engineering tools or documentation, for example. Just create a repository and share the things that you already have or use every day. It might be just very valuable to a lot of team members, or maybe people outside of your team. You can think of the things that you see on the screen. There are probably a lot more examples what you can do, but this can already be super helpful. Also for people onboarding in your team, it's super helpful. If you want to take it a step further, then you can fix your biggest pain points that you encounter in a daily basis. You can let your colleagues contribute and use it, basically, and maybe also ask them, like, hey, do you have any scripts or tools lying around which I can use? Then you can professionalize on this setup. So maybe create a tool like we did, or maybe you can create like a static site out of all the documentation, something like that. And it would be very nice if you could measure the usage, or like the usage, or how basically that, because this can also convince people that are not using those tools that it's really valuable that you are sharing this, and that you might actually, if you want to have some time in the sprints, for example, to work on this, then measuring and having some metrics is very useful for that. And eventually you can pitch it to your business if you would like so. So then I would like to hand the word back to Guus.
Yeah, so this is basically where our talk used to end. And then we had like a declaration, okay, so if you work at the Rabobank and you have a Mac machine, then you can also use Red, which is of course not the most exciting thing to say here. For us it is, because we work at the Rabobank, or at least, well, actually, Martin, you're not longer working at the Rabobank, so you couldn't use this for the past couple of months. But we have a big announcement. So this is only live for the last 2 weeks. It's now open source. So we already had some questions like, what if we don't use Azure DevOps, or not Splunk, or other things? Why do we have it in Red? And does it also work on Windows and all of that? So one good thing that we did fix is that it is now, let me click on this button. So it is now open to the public. You can use it, still only if you are on Mac at the moment. We are working on that. Let me open the link here. So GitHub. And it's really easy to install now as well, because you can just use the public tab from Brew and install it with Homebrew. And in our GitHub, you can see a little bit more. We did a little bit of renaming. It used to be Rabobank Engineering Tools. Now it's called Red Engineering Tools. So we learned that from some other companies. You can just use the whole thing here and it still works. So great. So macOS is there. The other things are coming, so wait for that. And then when you have it, so this is I didn't clean this up. I didn't have time. Let's go to the main directory, and this is for me the develop mode of Red. Now I'm going to use the new version that is open source. What did I want to say? Right, yeah. So if you do install it, it might be a bit disappointing, because Stack Overflow is already there. I didn't clean anything at all. Martin, we should have checked this.
Doesn't sound disappointing that Stack Overflow is already there, right?
Yeah, you just implemented it and it's already there. Yeah. So quickly, let's do that again. So if you press Red, there's only 2 things. There's configure, which doesn't do anything. And then there's plugin, which wasn't there before, but it's the only thing currently. And that's because of the plugin architecture that we made. So the things that we already saw, like pull requests and all of that, those are now plugins that you can install. And you can easily make your own plugins to this. Here's my IntelliJ screen. So it's the same Stack Overflow command that Martin made, a little bit different. It's now a top command, which used to be Red. Now it's Stack Overflow. And it's the only class in the whole project. The rest is basically the same. It still opens Stack Overflow and it searches on things. But there's this nifty little thing here, the plugin initialize command as well, which you need. And if you have that and you build it, out of that you get a dynamic library file, or like a DLL in Windows, or SO file in Linux, I think. And that you can then go to your plugins folder, which is it should be in your home folder, or you can create it. It's all in the documentation. And if it's there, Red can pick it up. The only thing you need to do is call this plugin thing and initialize a new plugin, and provide the directory where it is. So this is something we need to improve. It's not this we can't autocomplete yet. So I hope I don't.
You missed the slash at the start.
Yeah, again. Yeah. That thing. Yeah.
It needs to be an absolute path at this moment.
Absolute path. This I can't copy, so that I don't make any mistakes there. Go to the end. There we go. Now initialize. Yeah, and then you can configure it. This one doesn't need any configuration, but other plugins could. And if I restart my terminal, Red does pick it up, and the message is there. And when I run it, so how to install Red? Maybe it's on Stack Overflow. Who knows? I need to verify that on the robot. Yeah, and there you go. How to install Red is there. So now everybody can basically quickly create plugins for yourself if you want. And you can share them with others within your company or whatever you want. It's open. So there's one caveat though. It's a bit in beta because well, a couple of things I already mentioned, but also I think currently the Git plugin is not working anymore since yesterday. But maybe it is actually now because my teammates were working on it today. It's still very, very much in beta. But soon we hopefully have a stable version running. And if you want to know more, just go to our GitHub page. So then I want to wrap it up with the last couple of things. So for us, the key takeaways of this whole thing was that one, investing in your engineering tools, it just really helps you in having more fun at your job, but also it's quicker. You can just type one command and there you have it. And if you do something like that, make sure it is for everyone. Not just for yourself or your team. It really helps for the whole company or even, well, it's now open source, so everybody can use it, but you don't have to do that, of course. But it makes more sense to have something that everybody can use. And then, yeah, start small, promote, distribute, and it's probably easier to go to a business and say what you want and to convince them that what you have is a good thing. Like we did. And yeah, actually for us, the main takeaway for this was still like typing red create PR or red PR create and you have your pull request there. It's just the best feeling ever. So I hopefully you can have it back soon.
Yeah, I would really love to have it soon back. Yeah.
Yeah. So we accept pull requests, Martin.
Oh yeah, cool. Sure.
Yeah. All right. So that was basically it. If you have any questions, let us know. We'll be around here. If you have questions about the keyboard, I'm happy to talk about it. It's really great for pair programming. I can give this to you. So
that's cool.
That's it. Thanks.